Hey there everybody, today is Friday, July 31st. My name is Ryan. I'm going to be talking about the HEALS Act today and breaking it down. And I'm going to be talking about what the hell is going on with this bill right now. So the HEALS Act was a bill that was introduced by the Senate Republicans, and the negotiations have been underway for the past week. And so far it doesn't look that good. Like, it seems like the Republicans and the Democrats are still fairly divided on several key issues. One of them being liability protection. It seems like that's something that Republicans really want for businesses, and while Democrats want that for more individuals like healthcare workers and stuff like that. So they're really divided there. And also state funding. The Republicans don't want to give states more money willy-nilly, and the Democrats feel like it's very important to provide more funding for states to support them in a time where they're not making as much revenue through sales tax or income tax or whatever and whatnot. So that's what's going on with negotiations. But what's really strange about this bill and what's really interesting is that the HEALS Act is not any one bill. It's actually a conglomerate of like 10 bills, 10 different bills, which kind of shows you how divided the Republicans were on these issues, or how they were not united on these issues when they were introducing these bills. So I'm just briefly going to go over all of these individual bills and break down what provisions are linked to what bill. So the first bill I'm going to talk about is the American Workers, Families, and Employers Assistance Act. And this bill is the one that contains the stimulus check and unemployment insurance extension. So the stimulus check, as you know, is $1,200 at the moment, and the Republicans and Democrats seem to be in high agreement for that amount and for the limitations that are placed on that check. For unemployment, however, as you know, right now the Republicans have proposed $200 a week up until October. And in October, it changes to 70% of your previous wage. So it looks like some of the Republicans are now seeing that $200 per week is not nearly enough, so we might see that amount increase. The next bill is the Safe to Work Act, and this one is basically the liability protection, 5 years for businesses, schools, universities, hospitals, that kind of thing, for any COVID-related lawsuits. The next one is Restoring Critical Supply Chain and Intellectual Property Act. And this bill basically sets out guidelines and provisions moving manufacturing of PPE, such as masks, gloves, respirators, that kind of thing, from China to the US, bringing more businesses back to the US. That would be good. Then there's a continuing Small Business Recovery and Paycheck Protection Program Act. I did a video specifically on this bill a couple days ago. This is the one introduced by Marco Rubio. This one has Paycheck Protection Program version 2, meaning you can get a second draw of the PPP, even if you already received funds from the PPP originally. And it's gonna help simplify PPP forgiveness for loans under $150,000, meaning you don't have to submit any paperwork at all. So this bill will be helpful. Also, it will introduce a SBA 7A loan for small businesses. Another loan program. It seems like it's going to be a very low interest rate, 1% for small businesses. Then there's the Labor, Health, Human Services, and Education proposal. And this is the bill that's going to give $105 billion to schools that reopen. It's going to give $15 billion for childcare, $60 billion for testing, and about $40 billion for vaccine research. Following that is a COVID Response Additional Appropriations Act. And this bill will give $306 billion to agriculture companies and organizations like the FDA, the Department of Defense, and the Department of Commerce. Then there's the Trusts Act. The intent of the Trust Act is to help fix the Medicare and Social Security trust funds right now and develop a team and a research committee to figure out what's going on with those trust funds and see if they can get it to be more efficient. Next is the Safely Back to Work and School Act. The gist of this act is just to improve public health in general. You're like providing more support for like telehealth, testing, more support to like hospitals and schools, that kind of thing, just overall public health, and also to simplify and provide some relief for student loan debt repayments. It's not going to defer payments or take away payments completely or anything like that. I think it's just going to simplify the payment methods and the income-based repayment plans. Then we have the School Choice Now Act, which is just supposed to give scholarship money to certain scholarship programs. And last but not least, we have Supporting America's Restaurant Workers Act, which is the 100% meals deduction on your tax return, because as you know, originally meals are deducted at 50%, but this act will change it to 100% to incentivize business owners and the like to eat at restaurants for their business meetings. So as this bill is written right now, that 100% deduction will be effective on the date that the bill is passed. Any meals that were spent before then will still be at 50%, but any meals spent after the day that the bill is passed will be at 100%, and this will only last through 2020, and it'll go back to 50% in 2021. So what are the pros and cons to proposing a HEALS Act that's all broken up like this? So I'll start with the pros. The pros are, if there are some points that the Democrats don't like or that they can't agree on, that means other proposals and bills can still be passed without changing an entirely large bill. The House introduced the HEROES Act back in May, and they passed it. It was a giant bill, $3 trillion, had a bunch of provisions in it. When it reaches the Senate, the Senate didn't agree on most of those things, so the bill is basically dead. No more traction, no more movement. So doing it this way, you have all these individual bills. It's more likely that some things will get passed, even if the Senate and the House don't agree on other things, but at least some things will get passed. So that's the advantage there. The disadvantage goes to show that even the Senate Republicans are divided among themselves. There's no unity, there is major disagreements, and also if things are not in a large bill, there's sort of like less pressure, less bargaining power, so to speak, for the people that introduced this bill. And so just looking at the state of Congress right now, heavily divided and stubborn and trying to negotiate these points without really budging much, that's a concern, because the American people really need assistance. They really need the stimulus package to pass. But if it's stuck, if it's stalled, and it's going to take more time, that's a concern. Senators are going back on recess starting August 8th. And so if this bill doesn't pass basically by next week, it's going to be a long time before senators and the House can get back together to negotiate. So hopefully they get their shit together and start compromising and start really listening to what the people want and what the states need and what the schools need. Hopefully that all happens relatively quickly, because there's just one more week. And by the way, one more week until the Paycheck Protection Program version 1 expires. So if you haven't applied for that, then definitely get on that as well. Okay? That's all I got for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you all have a great weekend. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, and if you thought this was helpful, please do smash that like button. I really appreciate it. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything going on with the pandemic right now, at least financially. But again, have a great weekend. Take care for now and stay safe.